Grace and peace, saints. This is Tony Keaton again of the Gospel, Light, and Truth Crusade. And today I'm bringing you the second portion of our discussion entitled The Roman Catholic Takeover of America. Now, as I told you the last time, this report I'm bringing you is based on a book by a lady named Monica Farrell entitled Ravening Wolves. And here's my copy of the particular book. Now, as I told you on our last discussion, when Monica Farrell, in writing this book, she told us about what happened in Australia, how it was actually taken over by the Roman Catholic Church. And she also talked about what happened in Yugoslavia during World War II, when the Roman Catholic forces took over Yugoslavia, and which ultimately resulted in the massacre of the Bosnian Serbs. Now, the reason why I'm doing this report is because I want to show you how, actually Monica Farrell in the book shows us how she gives us a blueprint in describing the steps that the Roman Catholic Church took to take over Australia, and then subsequently to take over Yugoslavia. She actually gave us a template that we can apply anywhere, but most particularly in the United States, to show how the very thing that happened in Australia and in Yugoslavia is actually happening right now in the United States of America as we speak. Now, as I said, she gave she said basically that the takeover of a country actually happened in three phases, okay? The first phase was a crusade of prayer, claiming a country for Mary. As you recall, I showed you a prayer card that I found at the VA hospital in the United States that was entitled Our Lady of America. And it showed, if you recall, a statue of the Virgin Mary entitled Our Lady of America. And on the back of that card, there was actually a prayer to Mary, which actually claimed the country, it claimed the United States for the Virgin Mary. And I showed you that card on part one of this discussion. So in the United States, that proves that phase one, a crusade of prayer claiming a country for Mary, was actually accomplished in the United States. Now, the second phase is a dedication of the country to Mary. And the third phase is a holy warfare to possess that nation. Now, I'm going to show you that phase two, dedication of the country to Mary, was actually accomplished in the United States already back in 1959. Now, you may be familiar with the Roman Catholic legend or claim of Our Lady of Fatima, Our Lady of Guadalupe, or Our Lady of Lourdes in France. In other words, the Virgin Mary was supposedly the Roman Catholic Church believes that the Virgin Mary actually, in each one of these countries, appeared to someone, some Roman Catholic, a child or grown up, whatever the case may be, and gave that person a message about something she wanted the Catholic Church to do in that particular country or in that particular place. And subsequently, the Virgin Mary was actually enshrined in that particular place and called Our Lady of what have you. When it happened in Guadalupe, Mexico, she was called Our Lady of Guadalupe. When it happened in Fatima, which is in Portugal, she was called Our Lady of Fatima. And when it happened in Lourdes in France, she was called Our Lady of Lourdes. This happened in other places. She's Our Lady everywhere. And I told you on the last, on the first part of this discussion that the Bible actually talks about that in Isaiah chapter 47, verses 1 through 4. where in verse 4 she's actually called Our Lady of Kingdoms. So we're talking about the same person here. This is the Virgin Mary, which has gone by many different names throughout the history of the world. And so the Mary is just the more recent manifestation of the same goddess, the goddess Diana, called many things. Ultimately, she is Semiramis, the wife of Nimrod, spoken of in the book of Genesis in the Bible. Well, anyway, so the Virgin Mary appeared in all these places. They call it an apparition, where she appears and talks to a Roman Catholic faithful and gives a message to the church. Well, she is said to actually have appeared in the United States also. She supposedly appeared in Indiana, actually. So, a town in Indiana. Actually, she has supposedly appeared to a Roman Catholic nun named Sister Mary Ephraim Neusel, okay, and given her a message for the church, okay. Now, there's a document, there's several documents, but I found this particular document on the internet at a place called OurLadyOfAmerica.com, and has several documents, and one of them, I'm going to read this to you so you can see how significant this apparition of the Virgin Mary in America actually was, and in fact is, to the Roman Catholic Church, and it's going to affect the future of every single American. So listen closely. On this particular document, it's a 6-part document. It is entitled The True Story of Our Lady of America. This is part 1. This is how it begins. I want you to listen to this. Quote, Part 1, God's Preparation for Mary's Visit. I'm going to take my glasses off. What is God's plan and preparation for the role of Our Lady of America in the redemption of mankind and the renewing of the face of the earth in these troubled times? Bishops met in Baltimore, Maryland, the first Catholic diocese in the U.S. for the 6th Provincial Council of Baltimore. On that date, they petitioned Rome to have the Blessed Virgin, under the title of the Immaculate Conception, named as Patroness of these United States. 28 at that time. In 1847, that petition was granted by Pope Pius IX, and Mary, under the title of Her Immaculate Conception, became Patroness of the United States, unquote. So I hope you understand the import of that action, because I can tell you something. The Roman Catholics certainly did. They immediately went to work to build a national shrine to Mary in Washington, D.C. So understand something. In 1847 now, according to this document, a petition was granted. Okay, they petitioned the bishops of Baltimore, or the bishops of the Roman Catholic Church. They met in Baltimore, Maryland, okay, and they petitioned Rome to have the Blessed Virgin, the Virgin Mary, under the title of the Immaculate Conception, named as the Patroness of the United States, okay? Basically our God, because if you think about something now, you know, our money says, in God we trust. So if you think about this now, God is the patron of the United States. If you think about it, okay? We have on our money, in God we trust. Okay? Now, these Roman Catholic bishops in 1847, okay, managed to get their petition granted by Pope Pius IX, and Mary, under the title of the Immaculate Conception, became Patroness of the United States. So you see, God was no longer, at that point, as far as the Roman Catholics were concerned, God was no longer the God of the United States. It was, in fact, the Virgin Mary. Now, I'm going to continue. As I said, they went to work, and they went to work to build a national shrine to Mary in Washington, D.C. And, quote, American's patronal church, a magnificent hymn to Mary in stone, was dedicated on November 20th, 1959, unquote. So they built a church in Washington, D.C., and I've seen this church. I've been by it. They built a church and they called it the National Shrine. And it was dedicated on November 20th, 1959. I'm going to tell you something. I once read, I had a calendar, and the calendar was all about the United States. It's actually all about it's all about Washington, D.C. There were just things about Washington, D.C. on this calendar. And one of them had the National Shrine on it. Okay, it's called the National Basilica now because the Vatican upgraded it from a shrine to a basilica. So that's a big deal in the Roman Catholic Church. So it's actually called the National Basilica now. And what did it say? The caption underneath the photo of this church said, a church for national purposes. Now, you know that's just code, right? A church for national purposes is a national church. But they couldn't say that. So they couldn't come out and say that this shrine, okay, built to Mary, was actually a national shrine or a national church, because see, our Constitution says, okay, that there should be no laws with respect to religion. Now I forget how it's worded. Okay, I know it, but for whatever reason, because I'm talking, it's not coming to me. But there should be no laws passed with respect to a national religion. Okay, and the First Amendment says that. So we're supposed to be free of any national religion. You know, everyone talks about separation of church and state. Well, look what happened. In 1959, this church was dedicated. Okay, and it's called America's Patronal Church. Actually, it's called the National Shrine. So as far as Roman Catholics are concerned, this church is America's church. And you need to understand that, because that's exactly what they're saying. This church is America's church as far as Roman Catholics are concerned. Now, Americans don't know anything. Most Americans, or I should say most non-Catholics, probably know nothing about this, or know very little about it, or don't take it seriously, as most people tend to do. But it's a very serious deal in the United States, and I'm going to show you how serious it is. Remember, we're talking about phase 2, which is dedication of a country to Mary. Now, I'm going to tell you something. On November 20th, 1959, the date that this America's Patronal Church, the National Shrine in Washington, D.C., was dedicated, okay, this following prayer now, this prayer was said, and I want you to listen to this very closely. Quote, this is what's talking about now. This, quote, this beautiful act of consecration to our Blessed Mother was written by Bishop Thomas Grady for the dedication ceremony of the shrine. Act of consecration to our Blessed Mary. Most Holy Trinity, our Father in heaven, who chose Mary as the fairest of your daughters, Holy Spirit, who chose Mary as your spouse, God the Son, who chose Mary as your mother. In union with Mary, we adore your majesty and acknowledge your supreme, eternal dominion and authority. Now listen to this. Most Holy Trinity, we put the United States of America into the hands of Mary Immaculate in order that she may present the country to you. I'm going to read that again. Most Holy Trinity, we put the United States of America into the hands of Mary Immaculate in order that she may present the country to you. Unquote. Now I can go on through this, but it's really not germane to what I want to get to the point. The fact is this. Monica Farrell in the book Ravening Wolves tells us that there are 3 phases to the Roman Catholic takeover of a country. First phase, a crusade of prayer, claiming a country for Mary. Step 2, or phase 2, dedication of the country to Mary. And phase 3, a holy warfare to possess that which they have already claimed by dedication. Now you need to understand something. On November 20th, 1959, when they dedicated this national shrine, as far as the Roman Catholic Church was concerned, the United States was dedicated to Mary because they issued this prayer. Okay? They issued this prayer. And the prayer has the imprimatur, or the official seal of Patrick A. O'Boyle, Archbishop of Washington. So it's the real deal. This is no joke. The United States on November 20th, 1959, was actually dedicated to the Virgin Mary. Okay? Now, you may not understand what the import of this is, but I'm going to tell you what the import of it is. Well, what I'm going to do is we're going to go back to that. I'm going to come back. We're going to go back, and you're going to understand exactly why this is a big deal, because it has extreme spiritual significance. Okay, extreme, grave spiritual significance. Okay, dedicating the country to an idol. Okay, we're going to talk about that later. Now, the last step, or the last phase that Monica Farrell talks about in Ravening Wolves is step 3, is a holy warfare to possess that which they have already claimed by dedication. Okay, now I'm going to show you what Monica Farrell does is she goes to Yugoslavia and shows what happened there. It shows you the steps that were taken to complete phase 3, which is actually the holy warfare. It happened in degrees, by degrees. And I'm going to show you how it happened. First, I'm going to read you the steps, okay? This is what she said happened. Remember, and she says when they came, when the Nazis came in through Yugoslavia, when they swept through Yugoslavia, okay, there was already a 5th column in Yugoslavia, Nazi sympathists, okay, actually Roman Catholic sympathists, and they were called Catholic Action. They were already sitting there waiting for the Nazis to come through. When the Nazis came through, they took charge. They were already there, but they were just lying dormant, waiting for the right moment. Okay? Now listen again to what Monica Farrell says. Quote, a corner of Yugoslavia in which there was a Roman Catholic majority deflected under Roman Catholic influence and formed a puppet state, calling it the independent state of Croatia. That's step 1. Okay? Forming an independent state. Step 1. Okay? I continue. Then the mask fell off, and Roman Catholic Action came out into the open and took complete control. The Quisling, and the Quisling is it's a political office in this puppet state, this independent state of Croatia. The Quisling, whose name was Pavlic, raised an army called the Ustashi, which was composed of Roman Catholic actionists. This army was helped by other Roman Catholic armies. Okay, I'm going to pause there. So this is step 2. First step, form an independent state. Step 2, okay, form an army of Roman Catholic actionists and other Roman Catholic sympathists. Okay, and this army will be helped by other Roman Catholic armies. That's step 2. Okay, I continue. This army was helped by other Roman Catholic armies, such as the Hungarians and the Bulgarians, who also acted in the interest of the papacy. The objective of these armies was the forceful conversion to Romanism, or Roman Catholicism, or annihilation of the Serbs, an ideal which would only appeal to papists. Government offices were taken over, and a notice issued that only Roman Catholics could remain in the government service. Now, this is step 3. This is step 3. Government offices will be taken over by the Roman Catholics, and a notice issued that only Roman Catholics could remain in government service. That's step 3. I continue. Quote, all arms were confiscated. I say again, all arms were confiscated on the plea of safeguarding against a communist uprising. In villages, people were called to assemble for instructions and knew nothing of what was awaiting them. They were either shot down on the spot or taken to concentration camps to be tortured and starved. Unquote. So this is the last phase. Phase 4. confiscation of all weapons. Okay? So, these are the steps in phase 3, which is a holy warfare to claim that, or I should say to possess that, which has already been claimed through dedication. Remember, this is phase 3. 4 steps. First step, form an independent state. Second step, raise an army composed of Roman Catholics and armies and other armies that will help this particular army. Okay? Step 3, government taken over by Roman Catholics, and notice issued that only Roman Catholics can be in government. Step 4, confiscation of all weapons. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you that these steps have been and are being initiated in the United States as we speak. Matter of fact, we're so far down the road, it's not even funny. Okay? And if you've been watching the news, you kind of already know this. You already know this, just based on what I've said. Okay, step 1. Form an independent state, right? Now, have you ever heard of an independent city? Now, most of us have not, okay? I have, because back in St. Louis, where I'm from, when the National Weather Service comes on whenever there's going to be a tornado, and they just tell you all the areas that the tornado warning affects or whatever, or the thunderstorm warning affects, they always say St. Louis County, and the independent city of St. Louis. And I used to wonder what that was all about. They would say this warning affects St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and the independent city of St. Louis. I'm thinking, what? What's the independent city of St. I hadn't even heard of that. I'd only heard of St. Louis and Greater St. Louis. I had never heard of the independent city of St. Louis. Well, come to find out that the independent city of St. Louis is separate jurisdiction. It's a completely separate jurisdiction than the city and the county, if you can believe that. I'm going to tell you, let me read to you what Wiki says about it. Wikipedia says that an independent city is a city that does not form part of another general purpose local government entity. Unquote. So in other words, an independent city does not come under the jurisdiction of the local government. Okay? Now you have to understand the United States has a county government system. Okay? And that means that every city in any given state forms a part of a particular county for government and administrative and regulatory purposes. Okay? And it's governed by the county government. But an independent city does not form a part of any county. So it does not fall under any local government. You follow? Now I'm going to give you an example, okay, of an independent city or an independent city in another country. Did you know that London is a city in England, but inside of London there's an independent city called The City? You know, I've read about that in a book called Secret Societies and Their Power in the 20th Century. Don't get this book. It's all New Age stuff. But there are some true things in there. But you really got to use discernment. So don't get the book. I'm just letting you know that's where I first heard that the city of London was a separate entity from London. Okay? Replete with its own mayor and everything. It's got its own government. Matter of fact, that's where the city of London is the financial district. That's where all the banks and everything is located. That's where the Federal Reserve is located. So that'll give you a hint, okay? But listen to this now. This is what Wikipedia says about the city of London. Quote, London, the capital of the United Kingdom, is administratively Greater London, which consists of the city of Westminster, home to the Houses of Parliament and Buckingham Palace, the seat of government, and the 32 London boroughs. The square mile city of London is a legally separate jurisdiction, an independent city completely surrounded by Greater London. The Lord Mayor of London, like all Lords Mayor, theoretically represents the monarch, whereas the similarly titled Mayor of London does not. Unquote. Did you understand that? So you have Greater London, and within city of London, you have another city called the City of London. You've got London, called Greater London. Then you've got the City of London, which is a completely separate jurisdiction, an independent city, with its own mayor. Okay? And this mayor, okay, the mayor of London, the mayor of the City of London, does not even answer to the Queen. Now, let me tell you what I read back in this book, Secret Societies and Their Power of 20th Century. I read that when Queen Elizabeth wants to see the Lord Mayor of the City of London, she has to make an appointment. And then when she reports to him, she has to come in her street clothes, whereas he gets to come in all of his regalia, his official regalia and all, okay? So he's showing his power, and she comes in her street clothes. This is what I've read. I can't substantiate this, but I believe it, okay? I do. I believe it. I believed it then, even though I hadn't seen any proof of it. I just decided that this was something I was going to log in the back of my mind and say it could be true. But when I read this, when I came to the knowledge of this whole concept of an independent city being a separate jurisdiction, and that the Lord Mayor, okay, of London, of the City of London, doesn't even answer to the Queen, well, I really believed it then. So think about this now. Think about this. If the independent city is a separate jurisdiction from, is a separate jurisdiction from the local government, doesn't answer to the local government, okay? If this is going on in the United States, right, then wouldn't you want to know who these independent cities answer to, what jurisdiction they come under? I would want to know. I would want to know why the system even exists, okay? Do you know that it actually exists in the United States, okay? I told you, St. Louis, which is in the Midwest, okay, there's an independent city. You have Greater St. Louis, just like in London you have Greater London. We have Greater St. Louis, and then the independent city of St. Louis, okay? That's in the Midwest. There's also Baltimore. Baltimore, Maryland is another independent city. Where's that? On the East Coast. And Carson City, Nevada is the third independent city, and it's on close to the West Coast, okay? Think about that now. You've got three independent cities: Baltimore, St. Louis, Carson City. Carson City. And they're independent cities, separate from any jurisdiction and not subject to the local government. Okay? Baltimore now has many independent cities, okay? Baltimore is supposed to have, Virginia, I meant to say. Virginia has quite a bit of independent cities, okay? Quite a bit. But, yeah, you've got those three. Now, I would want to know why. Think about this now. Think about this. St. Louis, which is an independent city now, it was a leader during the early stages of the secessionist movement, okay, that led to the Civil War, okay? Now, I've read that St. Louis even sought to gain control of the United States arsenal for the Confederacy, okay? The St. Louis was clearly backed the Confederacy. It is said that Missouri tried to stay out of it, that it tried to stay neutral or whatever, and even supported the Union. But it is a fact, a known fact, that St. Louis City actually supported the Confederate States, okay, the rebels during the Civil War, and even sought to gain control of the U.S. arsenal for the Confederacy. Okay, that's a matter of historical record. Okay. Now, if you think about it, the term independent city takes on a whole new meaning then, doesn't it? Now, Charles Chiniquy, okay, who used to be a Roman Catholic priest, he wrote a book called 50 Years in the Church of Rome. And in this book, he actually wrote that President Abraham Lincoln was aware that the American Civil War was actually instigated by the Roman Catholic Church, okay? and not for the purpose of defending and preserving the slave trade. I should say not only for the purpose of defending and preserving the slave trade, but also for the purpose of winning the United States over to Rome. You see, Chiniquy said that that Rome, okay, intentionally sent many immigrants from Canada down to settle in the American Midwest, okay, for the purpose of seeding that area with Roman Catholics and then spreading out and eventually taking over the entire United States for the Roman Catholic Church. Charles Chiniquy wrote this in his book. I can't quote the page. I don't have the book with me. I'm in Germany right now, and the book's back home. But this is what he alleged, and he would know. He was a priest in the Roman Catholic Church, and not a priest of and in no small measure, I should say. He knew some things, okay? And he actually was actually defended by Abraham Lincoln when he was taken to court by the Roman Catholics, okay, when they tried to get rid of him for some things that he had done. He said that Abraham Lincoln actually defended him, okay? So that's not taught in our history books, but this is what Charles Chiniquy said. And apparently this is one of the reasons why he was killed, not just because he freed the slaves, as is popularly believed, but also because he got this priest, this Roman Catholic priest, Charles Chiniquy, off. Okay, they tried to rake him over the coals, and Charles Chiniquy defended him, and successfully so. And according to Chiniquy, they had a vendetta against him that did not end until they killed him. Okay, so yeah, so apparently the Roman Catholic Church has always had designs on the United States. Okay, always. And apparently this independent city thing has something to do with that. My belief is this. My belief in that St. Louis is an independent city within greater St. Louis, and that there are other independent cities like Baltimore and Carson City. My belief is this, in that St. Louis supported, during the Civil War, this independent city of St. Louis actually supported the Confederacy. And Charles Chiniquy and Abraham Lincoln said the Confederacy was actually Roman Catholic. Okay? In that St. Louis supported them, and it was an independent city. My belief is that if the United States ever had any more problems in the future, if the Roman Catholic Church wanted to go one way and the United States government wanted to go another way, that the independent city of St. Louis and the other independent cities, they would back the Pope. They would not back the United States government and our president and our Constitution. Okay, they would back the Pope. That's my belief. And I have reasons for believing that, but I'm not going to go into those reasons, not now. Only thing I want to accomplish today through this discussion is to let you know that something's going on in the United States, and that something is this. The Roman Catholic Church has plans to take over America. Okay? And you need to get that straight. If you think that I don't know what I'm talking about, research what I'm talking about. Just do some research and come up with your own opinion. But let it be an educated opinion. Now, so that was step one, declaring independent state. Okay, and we see that already happening in the United States. And I believe that these independent cities are there for a reason. And you already know what that reason is. They're going to secede again from the Union if the need arises. Okay? Now, two, what happened in Yugoslavia? Okay? The Roman Catholic government raised an army, remember, called the Ustashi, which was composed of Roman Catholic actionists, and was helped by other Roman Catholic armies. Now, I want you to understand something. The United States no longer has its own military, okay? We fall under the jurisdiction of the United Nations. Why is this? Why is it that the United States vehicles, when they go to Afghanistan and Iraq and these other places, U.S. is painted off them? There's no more U.S. on the vehicles. There's either UN or some other symbol, like it was the upside down V when I was in the Gulf War. And we no longer have U.S. insignia on our uniforms, okay, and on our hats. And well, nowadays I'm saying they wear the blue UN beret. If you didn't know that by now, you should know that. Okay, remember Michael New refused to wear one, okay, and was court-martialed for that. Okay, so it's a big, he knew something. He knew that the United States was no longer fighting for the United States. It was actually fighting for the United Nations. And why is this? Because the United States signed the UN Participation Act in December the 20th, 1945. And Article 43 of that act says that the United States has to give up its army to the UN Security Council, okay, on its call. On the UN Security Council's call. In other words, the United States doesn't say when, how many, how long, or anything. It is actually the UN Security Council that's going to say what units you're going to give us, how long we're going to keep them, okay, and what their mission will be. So United Nations actually controls the United States military because the United States Constitution, which says that Congress makes that call, the United States Constitution is in effect been superseded by treaty because the United States signed the UN Participation Act, and the United Nations Charter now supersedes the United States Constitution. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So our army no longer belongs to us. It actually belongs to the UN to go wherever it wants to send it. That's why the United States is constantly going all over the world as part of these peacekeeping actions, okay? And they're not really keeping any peace if you pay attention. Look at what happened in Rwanda. The peacekeeping forces stood there and watched the Hutus slaughter the Tutsis, okay? Watched them do it and didn't do a thing, okay? So they're not keeping any peace, all right? You ought to know that by now, okay? The United States isn't controlling it. It's not in control of its military anymore. The United Nations is controlling it. Okay? What does this have to do with what I'm talking about? Think about this now. The United Nations is run by the United States. Who runs the United States? Well, I tell you what, it ain't the president. It's not the president. Okay? It's not the president. Did you notice that the president went to the Vatican and he, to see the Pope and all? Okay? Think about this now. Think about this now. The United States, Barack Obama is the president, but he's not running the government. Okay? And you should know that. No, you probably do know that. Okay? Barack Obama's not running the government. Okay? It's actually the Pope, as far as I'm concerned. Let me tell you why I say that. Do you remember the interview with George W. Bush when he was in office? Remember the interview that he did with, I think it was with 60 Minutes? And the last question the interviewer asked him, he said, you said that when you looked into the eyes of, I forget what he said. You said that when you looked into the eyes of someone, you saw something. He says, when you looked into the eyes of Pope Benedict XVI, what did you see? And George W. Bush said, God. Just that simple. The interviewer said, when you look into the eyes of Pope Benedict XVI, what did you see? And George W. Bush said, God. Now, if George W. Bush thinks that the Pope is God, and he's President of the United States, and he considers himself a Christian, then if the Pope says do A, B, C, D, and E, what do you think President of the United States is going to do? He's going to do A, B, C, D, and E. He's going to answer to his God before he answers to the Constitution of the United States of America. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? This is not a game here. This is for real. The president said that when he looked into the Pope's face, he saw God. And he considers himself a Christian. So if the Pope says, do this, the president's going to do it. Why? Because he's going to do what God tells him before he does what the Constitution of the United States tells him to do. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, if the Pope runs the president, and the president runs the United States, and the United States runs the United Nations, okay, then who is really running? What I'm saying is, in the United States, let me continue. And the United Nations Security Council has power over the armies of every government of the world that is a signatory to the United Nations participation. And what I'm trying to say is, every country that is a member of the United Nations Security Council has ceded over control of their army to the United Nations. Now, a great portion of those armies in the United Nations just happen to be Roman Catholic armies. Do you understand my point? Do you understand my point? So, if the United Nations say if in Yugoslavia what happened then was an army was raised called the Ustashi, which was helped by other Roman Catholic armies, don't you see that the same thing is going to happen? If the same thing is going to happen in the United States, definitely could happen in the United States, and I believe definitely will happen in the United States. When the Roman Catholic Church puts its foot down in the United States, and their fifth column, which already exists in the United States, because if there was a Roman Catholic action in Yugoslavia back then, there's more than likely a Roman Catholic action in the United States right now, and in fact in every country in the world right now. So then that fifth column in the United States is going to rise up, and just like the Ustashi was helped by other Roman Catholic armies in Yugoslavia, what do you think is going to happen in the United States? The fifth column in the United States, whatever it's going to be called, Roman Catholic Action or whatever, it's going to be helped by other Roman Catholic armies. Do you see? And those armies are going to be sent to the United States under the auspices of the United Nations as a peacekeeping force. But in reality, what they will be doing is fighting for the Pope. Do you understand that? That's just simple. I'm not a political science major. I don't have any serious knowledge of geopolitics, but I've got common sense, and I can read my Bible, and I can learn from history. And what I see happening is this. If it happened in Yugoslavia, it's going to happen in the United States. Remember, phases 1 and 2 have already been accomplished in the United States. The country was already claimed for Mary, okay, back in 1847 when Pope Pius IX, okay, actually granted the petition for the Virgin Mary to become the patroness of the United States under the title the Immaculate Conception. Now you know what that title means when you hear it in the United States all the time, Immaculate Conception. Now you know what it means, okay? Then, in 1959, at the dedication, November 20th, 1959, at the dedication of the National Shrine or Basilica in D.C., a prayer, the United States was actually dedicated to the Virgin Mary when this prayer was uttered, okay? They're not playing games. They have already claimed the United States for their own. Do you understand this? Okay? I hope you understand this. Because the third step now, we're in phase 3 now. Okay, United States is in phase 3. Phase 3 of the Roman Catholic takeover of the United States is going on right now. Okay, step 1. Okay, remember? Independent state was declared. Independent states have already been declared in the United States. St. Louis, Baltimore, Carson City. That's already happened. That's already happened. They just haven't risen up yet and shown who their allegiance is really towards, okay? But they're already there. What's step 2 going to be? Okay? An army's going to rise up. The fifth column, call it Roman Catholic Action, call it Catholic Fire, call it what you will. It's going to rise up. And then what's going to happen? It's going to be helped by other Roman Catholic armies. And I'm telling you, they're going to come under the guise of the United Nations as a peacekeeping force, but their mission will be, just as it was in Yugoslavia, according to Monica Farrell, the forced conversion of the non-Roman Catholic population to Roman Catholicism, or the annihilation of everyone who will not bow down to the Pope. That's going to happen. It's already planned. Okay? I continue. Okay? What was step 3? Quote, government offices were taken over and a notice issued that only Roman Catholics could remain in the government service. Unquote. That's step 3. Okay? Government offices will be taken over by the Roman Catholics, and a notice will be issued that only Roman Catholics can remain in government service. Now, why is this important? I'll tell you why it's important. Okay? This from the Huffington Post on November the 7th, 2012. Quote, a record-setting 31 Latinos will take seats in the U.S. Congress in January, according to the nonpartisan National Association of Latino elected and appointed officials. 3 of them will join the Senate, while 28 will head to the House of Representatives. Unquote. This from Fox News Latino, November 7th, 2012. Quote, Latinos played a key role in shaping the nation's political landscape this year. Latinos demonstrated their power as both voters at the ballot box last night and as congressional candidates that will make history in the 113th Congress. Latinos won seats all over the country. These new members will bring their experience and leadership and will enrich Congress not only with their understanding of the Hispanic community, but with what is needed for our nation. Unquote. A record number of Latinos are going to Congress this year, or have already gone to Congress this year, okay? And they are armed with an understanding of what is needed for our nation. Now, it must be noted that the overwhelming majority of Latinos or Hispanics are Roman Catholic. Okay? In fact, it was the Hispanic vote, the Latino vote, that got Barack Obama reelected, because many people who voted for him the last time didn't vote for him this time around. A lot of Christians voted for Barack Obama during the first election. But when they saw him passing laws that were clearly not Christian, okay, especially the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, okay, and the whole gay marriage issue, a lot of Christians didn't vote for him. What got Barack Obama in office again? The Hispanic vote, the Latino vote, the Roman Catholic vote. Understand that. Understand that. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Think about this. Now. Think. Hispanics are almost universally Roman Catholic, aren't they not? We all know they are. And Roman Catholics have traditionally been pro-life, pro-traditional marriage, and anti-homosexuality. They do this out of religious conviction. Y'all know this. Why then would Hispanics vote for Barack Obama, whose beliefs and legislative record show him to be clearly pro-abortion, anti-traditional marriage, and pro-homosexuality? Is that not, don't you think that's strange? Why would Hispanics vote for him when he stands for everything that they are against? I'm going to tell you why. Perhaps this statement from Alex Gonzalez, okay? He's a member of the Mexican rock group Mana, okay? Now, he made this statement during the inauguration party for Barack Obama. Listen to this now. Quote, Obama and the Democrats had the best option for the Latinos. You know, immigration reform is on the table. So, you know, the Latinos here in the United States are so powerful, and their voices need to be heard. Unquote. Okay? Now, from this perspective, any thinking person would be forced to at least consider that the efforts to bring down our borders and open up the United States to illegal immigration was deliberate. Okay? And the decision to grant legal status to millions of illegal immigrants already in this country has been planned well in advance. Now, I want you to think about this now, because think about this. And now they're talking about changing the law now to where, I forgot the name of the I don't think it's a law, but the practice that's in effect right now, it's where if they make it to shore, if Hispanics, if Latinos coming over from Cuba, if they make it to shore, then they can stay. But if they're caught in the water, then they have to go back. Now they're changing that around. They're starting to let them all just come. Did you ever wonder why? Did you ever wonder why all of a sudden Cuba just decides to just let anybody that wants to go to the United States go? When it was forbidden before, they had to jump on planks and load up millions in boats and, overloaded boats to get to Florida. Now Cuba's just letting them go. Did you ever wonder why? I'll tell you why. Well, you just heard why. Okay? They're going to take over the United States by what? By taking over the vote. Do you see? It's already been said that the Latinos, the Hispanics, have already become the largest minority group in the United States. They've overcome the blacks. Okay? They're now the largest minority group in the United States. And with more and more Hispanics coming over from Cuba, coming up from Mexico, okay? Pretty soon they're going to be doing the same thing in Haiti. They haven't done that yet, but it's eventually it's going to happen. Bunches of Haitians are going to come over. Guess what? They're also Roman Catholic. This is all being done for a reason. They are going to take over the vote. Now, once they take over the vote, if they're the largest voting bloc, they're going to vote for just Hispanic. They're going to vote just for the Hispanic. What's the word I'm looking for? Candidates. They're just going to be voting for the Hispanic candidates. Before you know it, the whole government will be Hispanic. Isn't this what Monica Farrell said happened in Yugoslavia? Okay, step 3. Roman Catholics took over the government and issued a notice that only Roman Catholics could stay in government. Can you now see that this can happen? Of course it can happen. I'll give you a case in point. Did you not notice this last election? Did you not notice what happened? Did you notice that a Roman Catholic priest, a Roman Catholic Orthodox priest, did the benediction for the inauguration proceedings? Did you notice that? Did you notice that when Joe Biden did his inauguration, the benediction was done by a Roman Catholic priest? And who actually read him his oath of office? Okay? The Hispanic judge, what's her name? Oh, goodness, why come I can't think of her name? That's a shame. I know her name, but I can't think of it. But she's the one who did the oath of office for Joe Biden. I mean, it was just Roman Catholic all day long. They were sending out a message, okay? The benediction for the entire inauguration, Orthodox Catholic priest. The benediction for Joe Biden's inauguration, Catholic priest. The woman who reads him his oath of office, Catholic associate judge. Okay? They're already serving notice. They're going to take over the government. They're serving notice. They're going to take over the government. Okay? And the words of this Gonzalez, okay, the rock singer, he already said it. Okay? Immigration reform is on the table. That's what this is Obama's last hurrah. This is what he's been elected to do this time. To finish what he started. Okay? To enact immigration reform to where anyone can come over the border, and what's going to happen? Millions of Mexicans are going to come up from Mexico who just happen to be Roman Catholics. Millions of Cubans are going to come over from Cuba who just happen to be Roman Catholics. And probably millions are going to come over from Haiti who just happen to be Roman Catholics. Why do I think that? Because CNN just keeps showing the things that are going on in Haiti as a result of the earthquake that was over there. All these unfortunate people, okay? They're priming people to already say, hey, let's bring these guys over and help them out. And they're Roman Catholics. The day will come when step 3 will be fulfilled in the United States. The Roman Catholics will take over the government and issue a notice that only Roman Catholics can stay in government service. Now, let us get to step 4, for it is very, very important. And you see it going on right now. What's step 4? All arms were confiscated. Now, Farrell says in her book, Ravening Wolves, that all arms were confiscated on the pretense of protecting the government against a communist uprising. Okay? Well, you know right now, ever since what happened in Connecticut, okay, the shooting in Connecticut, in Newtown, Connecticut, now why are they trying to take the weapons? The excuse is to keep crazy people from going into schools and shooting up people. Okay? Now, I saw this coming, 2 years ago, and I wrote about it on my website, that this was exactly what's going to happen, that you were going to see more and more school shootings, and the kids were going to get younger and younger and younger. I said this was going to happen. Why? Because people who normally would not be averse, people who would normally resist having their arms confiscated, okay, would agree to do so if they saw little kids getting slaughtered. They would do it to protect the kids, see? All this was planned well in advance. Newton, Connecticut was planned well in advance. Columbine, well in advance. Oslo, Norway, well in advance. All these were planned well in advance. Why? Because they're going to take Americans' weapons. That's step 4. Once that happens, you see, what's going to protect the average citizen when the Roman Catholic majority rises up in the United States and takes over? Did you know in St. Louis, Missouri, they're buying up all the knives now? I read it on the internet about 3 weeks ago. At least in St. Louis. I don't know about the rest of the cities in the United States, but in St. Louis, Missouri, they're just buying up knives like crazy. Now, why is that? Why are people buying up knives? Now, so I can understand what a lot of people were doing, were buying up ammunition because they thought that serious restrictions were going to be placed on ammunition, and they have been. The price has gone way up, and now they're talking about limiting the amount that a person can buy to keep people from stockpiling ammunition, okay? To keep some crazy guy from going crazy and having millions of guns in his basement and millions of rounds of ammunition. So people have been known to go into Walmart or whatever and buy up a lot of ammunition in anticipation of these things happening. But why are people buying up knives? What's that all about? I'll tell you what it's all about. It's so that when the arms get confiscated and people realize they don't have any other way to defend themselves, they won't even be able to go to the store and get any knives. The arms are going to be taken away from them, and they're not even going to have access to knives. Who's going to have all the guns and the knives? Well, you already know what my guess is, okay? Roman Catholic Action. Okay? They're going to have the guns, they're going to have the knives, they're going to have the bats, they're going to have the bullets, they're going to have everything. Okay? That's my belief. Okay? It has been said that those who ignore history are in danger of repeating it. Those who do not look at the examples of the past are in trouble. Now, I just told you what happened in Yugoslavia, and it did, in fact, happen. It's a matter of historical record. It happened. The Serbs were slaughtered. Just the reason and how it was going about has been obfuscated, okay? But Monica Farrell tells us in Ravening Wolves exactly why it happened, okay? It was a Roman Catholic takeover of that country. Now, I'm telling you the same thing is going on in the United States. The same thing is going on in the United States. That's what this whole gun control thing is all about. They're getting ready to implement step 4 of phase 3. Step 4 being the confiscation of all weapons. Phase 3, of course, is taking by force that which has already been claimed through dedication. See, the Roman Catholic Church is not playing games. They're not playing games. So, if you think that everything that I have said so far is a stretch, okay? If you just can't see something like this happening, okay, then I invite you to listen to part 3 of this discussion. Part 3 is going to be shorter. Well, this was about an hour. Part 3 is going to be shorter. And in part 3, I'm going to show you, okay, a little more of what's been going on while you've been watching the Super Bowl.